Hi everybody, thank you for joining me today. So we're going to be doing another Operation Right Home sketch, and it's this one right here. I really like using these ones for the videos because they come with the dimensions on everything for each piece of the sketch, so that's why we've been using a lot of the ones that they've had. And initially, I had picked out my papers for doing one card, and I just couldn't decide on what to use for the base. So I decided to do two cards instead of the one. So I'm cutting the two base that we're going to be building our sketch on top of to actually 5 1/4 by 4 inches. So we're just going to trim that down on here and put those aside. The next layer, I'm going to get the two pieces out of this card, and what I'm doing is I'm just trying to get it to a spot where I can trim, and then I'm going to trim more from the bottom because I wanted the line, I wanted it to look like a ledger for, you know, the parts that are sticking out. So once I got those cut down, I want to say those were like 5 1/4 by 3 inch. So since it's a 6 by 6 pad, all I had to do was do the length and then cut it in half basically. And I'm just trimming this to make sure that the white is, I should write them down so when I do my voiceover I have all the measurements. But I make sure at the very end to include the measurements. Probably I'll try and write them into the comments below, like if you just click the more, I'll try and have them all down there for you guys too. Alright, so on this one I'm trimming, I made strips of 3 1/4 or 3 1/4, 3/4 inch strips. That's how their thickness is, and then I just trimmed them to the length specified on the front of the card. And I just did everything twice because, you know, like I said, I'm making the two cards. And then on this one, I want to say this one was the longest piece and I had to do it 3 1/2. And since I couldn't do 2 out of 1, I had to cut another piece. Alright, so that's most of our cutting. So we're just going to go ahead and start applying and getting everything together. So with the base of the sketch, that one's going to give you a nice clean border all around the 4 edges. On this one, I wind up having to fold the second card. Like I said, you know, I literally, as I hit record, I changed my mind to do 2 cards. So on the ledger piece, or the piece that looks like a little journal piece, we're going to go ahead and lay that down. Now when I laid this one down, it was a little bit longer on the one end, and instead of trying to make a straight cut on my own, I just grabbed the cutter so I could retrim. I was going to do just like 1/8 of an inch, and where I put it, it took off a little bit more, but I'd rather have that sheet be slightly shorter than too long. Because then at least if it's a little bit shorter, it looks like I did it on purpose. So for the second piece, there's a little bit that was kind of hanging off on the edge, and I just trimmed that and it made it lay down perfect. Now the only thing with this one is at the top, it was a little bit disheveled. So I was taking my file to try and make it smooth, and when it wasn't working, I trimmed a little bit. And it did make it go down a little bit right there up at the very top. But I'm not mad at it. I'm just going to let it go and keep moving forward. Alright, so now we're going to start layering the strips that we did. Here's the deal with the strips. I always like how some of these cards look, like with the squares and, you know, the striped paper. I can never get each strip even enough and have it lay correctly. So you'll see, like as I'm laying these down, I'm trying not to press them very hard because I want to be able to pull them back up. So I'm just using my ATG gun. Oh, and by the way, this paper pack is from Echo Park. It's the Transatlantic Travel. I got this from Scrapbooking with Me Boutique, which links for their Facebook page, .com store will be down below. And don't forget, I know August is almost done, but if you use the code TM10, you can get 10% off of your purchase on the .com. So use TM10, okay? And they got a lot of great Christmas Echo Park paper up, and oh my god, you guys, you will love it. So off camera, I fixed our focal piece. So right now, all we're doing is stamping the sentiments. So on the one, I did happy birthday, and on this one, I'm going to do thank you. And I got both sentiments from the same from the same stamp set, which is from the Altenew cupcake, layered cupcake stamp set. And thankfully, since I'm using the Misty, I was able to stamp them twice to make sure that the stamping was nice and crisp. And I decided that I would go ahead and put the foam tape on the back and use that to give like a little dimension, because we're not adding a whole lot to these cards. Just a little bit of foam tape will be enough just to give it a little bit of, you know, that more layered look, since we didn't do any what's the word I'm looking for, any mats. On this one, we didn't do as many mats as we did with last week's. So I'm just finishing putting on the foam tape, and I already attached the one. Now I'm just adding the second one, and I'm just using my piercing tool to take the backing off of the foam tape. Now some of the tools I grab and use, they are from my stash, but if you go to Scrapbooking with Me Boutique, they do have the die release tool that a lot of us use as like our everything tool, and you could use the sharp end of that to take the backing off as well. And as I was putting this one on the card front, it got a little wonky, so that's why this particular one I'm trying to lift up and move around to get it to lay, you know, better. So with this paper pad, all the cards that I've been making, I've been adding the Nouveau drops, and this one is still the pale gold, which I love with this set, with this paper collection. I think it goes really well. And I was trying to figure out where exactly to put the drops at, and I decided on the bottom right corner. And I would have to say, like, these particular cards, I think my drops came out pretty good. The very last one gave me a little bit of a struggle, but I just kept messing with it until I got it to lay correctly. But I always start on like a little test piece of paper, a little, you know, strip, whatever I have laying around that I'm not going to use. I always start my new drops on there, so that way when I take it to the real card or the finished product, I don't have any bubbles. Alright, so here are some close-ups. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. And if you want, at the very end, I will have links to previous card sketch videos. And there will also be my picture. And if you click on that, that will subscribe you to my channel. So that way you don't miss any of the new videos that, you know, I'll be posting. So, thanks again. I'll see you guys with our next video, which will be Sunday. It's going to be our coloring video. I always find it very relaxing. So, I will see you guys then.